So 25. Let me say when he put his hand on him. I think it's not 49. I'm tripping. Well. Nah, it's it was the story of Ephraim and Manasseh. I think is in that
chapter 47.
That's what it is. Where he put his hand when the Most High told him to put his hand on Ephraim and gave him the blessing.
It might be 48.
Let's see here.
48 and like 13.
Come on, there you go. So let's start at let's start at 48 and 8. Yeah.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 48 and verse 8.
Read.
And Israel beheld Joseph's son.
And Jacob beheld Joseph's sons. Read.
And said, Who are these?
Come on.
And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons, whom the Most High hath given me in this place.
Read.
And he said, Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them.
And he will what?
And I will bless them.
Come on.
Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see.
So now Jacob, he was a very old man, that his eyes were dim, where he cannot see too good. Come on.
And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them, and embraced them.
Come on.
And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, the Most High has showed me also thy seed.
Read.
And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth.
Read.
And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand,
Ephraim in his right hand. Come on.
toward Israel's left hand,
Come on.
and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him.
Right. So Manasseh was older than Ephraim. So by law, you normally give the eldest son the inheritance. So that's what Joseph was trying to do, to make sure that Manasseh gets the what's the word I'm looking for? I guess that he gets the inheritance, that he gets the first right to the inheritance, to Joseph's inheritance before Ephraim, because he is his firstborn. Come on.
And brought them near unto him.
Read.
And Israel stretched out his right hand,
So now Jacob stretched out his right hand,
and laid it upon Ephraim's head,
but he put it on Ephraim's head. Right? Come on.
who was the younger.
Who was the what?
Who was the younger.
Read.
And his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hand willingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn.
Come on.
And he blessed Joseph, and said, Most High, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the Most High which fed me all my life, long until this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the last, and let my name be named on them.
And what? Say that part again.
And let my name be named on them,
Come on.
in the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth.
Right. So jump down now to verse. Where is it? Verse 20.
Verse 20. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, Most High, make make thee as
Most High make what?
Most High make thee
So
as
Most
Ephraim.
High make thee, Joseph, as who? No, you good.
Okay.
I'm
Most
adding-
High
I'm
make
adding-
thee as Ephraim
Right, the thee is Joseph. That's what I was
Huh.
doing. As
And-
Ephraim,
and as Manasseh.
read.
And he set Ephraim before Manasseh.
Right, so the Most High on this day, through the blessing of Jacob, set Ephraim the head before the Manasseh, and also made Joseph as Ephraim and Manasseh. Right. So now the blessing that Moses is about to give unto Joseph through the Most High is for the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh in Deuteronomy. All right. I was going to continue reading, but now let's go back to Deuteronomy. Read verse 13 again.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 13.
Come on.
And of Joseph he said, Blessed of the Most High be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that coucheth beneath. Verse 14. And for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon.
By the what?
By the moon.
Right, so as we understand and believe that the tribe of Joseph, his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are the so-called Puerto Ricans, right? The Boricuas and the Tainos, right? So in the land of Puerto Rico, we understand that they have a lot of resources as well. Read verse 13 again.
Verse 13. And of Joseph he said, Blessed of the Most High be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that coucheth beneath.
Right. Read.
And for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun.
But the precious what?
The precious fruits brought forth by the sun.
Right. So we understand that Puerto Rico, which stands for rich port in Spanish, is a land with many resources. Right. Come on.
And for the precious things put forth by the moon.
Right. So the fruits that brought forth by the sun, they have their major. I'm forgetting these words today, man. Export for mangoes, papayas, avocados, pineapples, coconuts, bananas, sugarcane. These are all fruits that the island is well known for, right? Read, and for the precious things brought forth by the moon. If you ever been to the land of Puerto Rico, when the moon come out, there's this little frog called the coqui, right? And this frog only comes out at night, right? So the precious thing brought forth by the moon, right? It's a small frog that only lives in Puerto Rico, right? And it comes out at night and makes a very distinctive whistle throughout the night, every night, continuously. It goes something like this. I had to laugh, man. Where are you from my eye? I can't stop laughing now. They make this. I go to sleep and you hear this thing all night. I don't know how they go to sleep with these frogs out there. So it's just like, it's just we correlate and we coordinate in this scripture. Like what can be precious that the Most High brought to the tribe of Ephraim, to the land of Ephraim through the moon, because nothing really grow at night, right? But it's just a coincidence that the land of Puerto Rico has this one little animal, this reptile, frog, that come out at night. And just like the tribe of Issachar, the donkey is like their symbol. It symbolizes them. This coqui is their symbol, Puerto Rico symbol. Right? You see this little frog with the straw hats on all of Puerto Rico's chains and attire for the Puerto Rican Day Parade and things of that nature, right? So that is something that's a precious thing that's brought forth by the moon as well. And probably many other things, but that's something that we correlate to the tribe of Ephraim. Read verse 15.
Verse 15. And for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills.
Right. The chief things of those ancient mountains, this is why they call this land the rich port, because in those mountains there was a substantial number of diamonds, gold, silver found in the mountains of Puerto Rico. What else? And it was also a primary source of slave labor in those times in the 1400s, from the 1400s to the 1600s, right? And then read it again from the top.
Verse 15. And for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills.
Right, and the lasting what?
Lasting hills.
In the lasting hills, those precious things they have in those lasting hills, Puerto Rico is also a very big export for coffee beans. And it comes from their hills up there in those mountains. Right? Read on.
And for the precious things of the earth, and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush.
Read.
Let the blessings come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren.
Come on.
His glory is like the firstling of bullocks. Read from the top.
Yeah, come on.
Book of Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 17.
Read verse 16 again.
Verse 16. And for the precious things of the earth, and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessings come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brother.
Right, because Joseph was separated from his brothers when?
When they were jealous of him.
Right, when they sold him into
Slavery.
right. They sold him to the so-called they wanted to kill him.
And they cast him.
Right? And they cast him out and they let him fall in the ditch and they thought he was put to death, and then he was sold into slavery into the Egyptians, right? Read.
Verse 17. His glory is like the firstling of bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns.
Come on. So his glory is like the firstling of a bullock, right? And his horns are like the horns of a unicorn, right? What is the glory of the firstling of the bullock? His horns, right? Like is that strong head they have, right? Read. With them shall he what?
With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth.
To the what?
To the ends of the earth.
Come on.
And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim.
The 10,000s of who?
Of Ephraim.
Come on.
And they are the 10,000s of Manasseh.
And the what?
And the 10,000s of Manasseh.
Right. So the Most High, Moses obtained a blessing for the tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh through Joseph, right? Huh? Come on, what's your
So
question?
like when it says like the horns of a unicorn, that's where they get the rhino from. That's their thing, like rhino.
Right. I mean, the scriptures call it a unicorn. A lot of Ephraimites say that's the rhino.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, kind. That's probably another topic for another day, right there.
Same from a unicorn.
The rhino.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No, I read somewhere that it's a type of cow that had horns that's extinct now.
Kind. Oh, okay. Kind. Yeah, they probably use the rhino for whatever reason, because they had that big horn on his nose. I believe it's on his nose or his head.
On top of it.
It's on top of his nose, right? Kind. But where is that horn? It's right here at the top of the head. So Ephraim is going to be the head tribe for the 10 tribes, right? Ephraim is the one that's going to Ephraim and Manasseh, but with Ephraim being the head, is the one who's going to lead the 10 tribes to what? The end of the earth, like we just read there in the scripture, right? So, what are they talking about? What is the scripture talking about? It's talking about 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 40, and verse 45. That, we don't have to go there. The Lord used the leaders of Ephraim and Manasseh to push and guide the 10 tribes of Israel to what? That world called Azareth, a land that no man dwelt in, right? To go there and dwell. The reason why they was going out there is to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, because they were escaping from the Syrians around that captivity, right? So they were the ones that led that group to that land, all right? And so that's why the Most High said their glory is going to be like the firstling of a bullock, right? And then the horns of a unicorn, because they're going to be the heads of all those tribes to get to this land, right? Read on.
And of Zebulun he said, verse 18, and of Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas, and of the treasures hid in the sand.
Right, so now it's going into the blessing for the tribe of Zebulun and Issachar, right? Who are the tribe of Zebulun and Issacharites right now, this present day? We have Issachar as the so-called Mexicans, right? Those that descend from the Aztecas, the indigenous Indians of those times. Then you have Zebulun, which is, remind me, I keep forgetting.
Panama?
Yeah, you got from Panama through the Panama Canal, the Hondurans, the Ecuadorians, Central America. Let's say that from Central America to through the Panama Canal all the way to Panama, right? So read that again from the top.
Verse 18. And of Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas.
For they shall what?
For they shall suck of the abundance of the seas.
Come on.
And of the treasures hid in the sand.
Right. So, for they shall suck, feed off the abundance of the seeds, right? The abundance of the seeds means the thousands of fish that they could feed on. I mean, I went to the land of Honduras, and they say it's one of the largest, the second largest, or the largest coral reef in those seas, right? So now, because they have coral reef over there, one of the largest coral reef, they have more of abundance of fishes that are not eaten by other big fishes like sharks. And because I understand they said something that sharks don't come over there, but then I did some research, and I believe there are some sharks that do travel in coral reef. But because they have so much coral reef out there, there's so many fishes that do not get eaten by these other fishes, basically. You understand what I'm saying? Huh?
So they're able to hide.
They're able to hide, and they use those coral reefs to protect themselves from their enemies, per se, right? That was over there in Honduras, right? The Hondurans, they descend from the Mayans, right? The Mayans, they had, and then it said, of the treasures of hid in the sand. They also had gold and silver that these conquistadors was taken from these indigenous people, right? This is what they lived off. There was the Mayans, the Aztecas were one of the most wealthiest indigenous tribes in those times. All right? So let's read on.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 20. And of Gad he said, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad.
1 second. Go back to, let me see if I missed Issachar. Because Issachar was about dwelling in the tents. Read 19 again.
Verse 19. They shall call the people unto the mountains. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness,
Right. So now the Iskarites, who were the who descend from the indigenous Aztecas, and the reason why I bring up these indigenous tribes, because a lot of culture and traditions they have were similar to our culture, the Israelite culture, similar to the Hebrew Israelite laws and commandments, feast days, high holy days. So I go as far as that because that's what our South American brothers and Central American brothers can relate to, because they understand of that history, right? So they shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, right? There's a book, I forgot the name of it, but the Aztecas, they became the strongest empire amongst the Mayans and all the other indigenous tribes, right? So they became like the heads in the government, right? So they will call the people into the mountain, and they will also offer sacrifices according to the commandments upon mounds, and their desire was to do the same in other lands, right? So you can read that in the book of James Adair, the history of American Indians, right? Where they right here, I got it here. So the Mexicans were so devout as to offer to the sun and earth a small quantity of every kind of meat and drink before any of themselves tasted it, and they sacrificed part of their corn fruits in like manner. Otherwise they were deemed haters of and contemned by their gods. Is not this a confused Spanish picture of the Jewish daily sacrifices and first fruit offering as formerly observed? Right? That's a question. So, and they also offered up by the northern Indians to the supreme Holy Spirit of fire, is who they call that, right? And they would sing these songs that had Hebrew in it. It had the word Yahweh in it. It had Hallelujah in it, right? And these Spanish writers and James Adair, they were the ones documenting this information, and while they was observing these indigenous Aztecas, which is nowadays called Mexicans, right? So now we could drop that and go to verse 20.
Verse 20. And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of his head, of the head.
Right, so who is the tribe of Gad? The tribe of Gad is the Native American Indians, right? Just like the Reubenites, they also were a mighty tribe, mighty men, valiant men of war, right? So read that again from the top.
And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad, and dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head.
So it said of Gad, blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. So despite the massacres of U.S. cavalry committed against the Native Americans, Indians, there are about 357 Native American Indian nations, tribes, from the year 1580 to 1880 in North America, right? And all those Native Americans make up the tribe of Gad, right? They just live in different states, and they will call themselves different tribe names, right? And then he dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. These are just characteristics of them and their demeanors, right? When you look at some pictures of the Native Americans, you have some, there was a Native American called Oto. Oh, then you had, these men would they would paint their face and make themselves look like lions, right? And this is how they would hunt for their food and also defend their territories, right? Because when somebody come into their land and they about to fight them, just think about the so-called white man. They see some guy that got his face looking like the ultimate warrior. You know what I mean? He's gonna be a little scared of that man. Like, yo, I don't want to fight this man. This man look crazy. He's about to tear up my face. So there was also, that was their demeanor. That was their hunting strategy, their war strategies to protect their territories and defend it, right? I think there's a precept. Oh, we already went to it. So that precept that we got in 5 and 18, right? It also mentioned the Gadites. So they were also valiant men and men of war. Let's read on. Verse 21.
And he provided the first part of himself, because there in a portion of the lawgiver was he seated. And he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Most High, and his judgments with Israel. And of
So, and he provided the first part himself, because there in a portion of the lawgiver was he seated. So, in later on, as the Native American Indians established all those nations, their traditions, like the book of James of Deer, they still would teach the law, statutes, and commandments of the Israelites. They were just under the umbrella of Native Americans. You know, that's what they were called, right? Their language and their dialect also had Hebrew in it, right? So that blessing that Moses obtained for the tribe of Gad through there was for that not to, separate from them, for them to continue to execute that justice and judgments within their tribes and their people. There was 357 native nations, native tribes, right? So they had these traditions of the separation of the uncleanness. They had the Day of Atonement. It was just they was speaking Indian dialect and they had Indian names and things of that nature, right? Let's read on.
verse 22. And of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan.
Right, so Moses obtained this blessing for Dan, the tribe of Dan. As it said, it leaped from Bashan. He leaped from Bashan because remember, Dan was dwelling with the half tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. So, this is just a blessing to not forget of the tribe of Dan. You understand? They was not to be forgotten of, right? So, they're not mentioned in Revelation at the 12 gates. Yeah, we understand that. But this tribe was a tribe. The tribe of Dan were a tribe, so they're not to be forgotten about. All right. So with them being a lion's whelp and leaping from Bashan, he shall leap from Bashan. It's just a blessing that the Most High will not forget them. All right. Let's read on.
Verse 23. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali,
verse what?
Verse 23.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Genesis. Go ahead.
And of the book of Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 23. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of the blessing of the Most High, possesses thou the west and the south.
Read.
And of Asher he said, let Asher be blessed with children. Let him be acceptable to his brother, and let him dip his foot in oil.
Come on.
Thy shoes shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be.
Right, so Naphtali and Asher are also the brothers that come from the South America. The blessing for Naphtali was for them to possess the west and the south. That's why, let me look at the stick.
Venezuela?
I think Asher, Venezuela, right? Let me see here. So Naphtali is the natives of Argentina and Chile. And then we got Asher, Brazil, Colombia to Uruguay, which includes Venezuela. And so Naphtali, if we look at a map, I believe from South America, they possess the west and the east coast, something like that. And then you have Asher, who we believe to be the Brazilians, like I said, Colombians, Uruguayans, Venezuelans. When you think about their lands is one of the lands with major export of oil, and they also have
So like an iron.
and iron, yeah, iron and brass. As we understand, that's why Venezuela, especially, America, stay trying to take the iron and brass and the resources that Venezuela has. You understand? So that's what the tribe of Asher, that was their blessing, to make sure that they're still acceptable to their brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil, and his shoes shall be. That's the abundance of oil, iron, and brass that all the lands that are Asher have. You know, Colombia, Brazil, especially Venezuela. All right, let's read on. Verse 26.
Verse 26. There is none like unto the Most High of Jeshurun,
Read.
who rideth upon the heaven and thy help, and in his excellency on the sky.
Come on.
The eternal power is thy refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms, shall thrust out the enemy from before thee, and shall say, destroy them.
Come on.
Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon a land of corn and wine. Also his heavens shall drop down dew.
Read.
Happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by the Most High, the shield of thy people, and who is the sword?
The shield of what?
The shield of thy people, of thy slaki, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency?
Come on.
And thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places.
Right. So it's gonna look like they left out certain tribes, but the Most High was gonna bless the rest of the tribes. You understand? The whole Israel, by dwelling in safety with them. Right. It said the fountain in verse 28, the fountain of Jacob shall be upon a land of corn and wine. Also his heavens shall drop down dew. So the other tribes they didn't mention, tribe of Simeon. Shoot, is that the only tribe they ain't mentioned? Yes, they ain't mentioned Manasseh, because Manasseh with Ephraim. Man, I think they just forgot to mention Simeon. Man, we must have been really wicked. So, this was the blessings that we received through Moses, through the Most High, that the Most High will always be our refuge and be our strength. You understand? That as we go in and travel into the land of Canaan, that we shall dwell in safety and not be worried or afraid of the other heathen nations that are in those areas. As long as, because there's no other power like Yahweh, the power of Yeshurun, who is the power of Israel, right? And he's going to be our help. So, moving on to the next chapter.
There's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, verse 1.
Come on.
And Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, that is over against Jericho. And the Most High shewed him all the land of Gilead, unto Dan.
Come on.
And all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah, unto the utmost sea, and the south, and the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, unto Zor. And the Most High said unto him, This is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither.
Come on.
So Moses, the servant of the Most High, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Most High.
Come on.
And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated.
Right, so Moses was still looking like a real healthy man. Understand? Even at the age of 120 years old, his eyes were not dim, and his natural force was still abated. Read. Meaning his demeanor, his his strength, he wasn't hunchback, or he ain't have no arthritis and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? He was looking like he was 50 years old. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 34 verse 8. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days.
For how long?
30 days.
Wow, come on.
So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended.
Read.
And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom.
Full of what?
Full of the spirit of wisdom.
Read.
For Moses had laid his hands upon him. And the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Most High commanded Moses.
Right, so the children of Israel mourned for Moses for 30 days, man. Why? Because Moses was a renowned, famous man amongst the Israelites. Moses done saved them from death thousands of times. He was the one to lead them through the wilderness, lead them through the Exodus, from Egypt all the way to the land of, to the river of Jordan, because he ain't going into the land of Canaan, right? So they mourned for this man for 30 days, because he was a humble, wise elder, right? So now, as soon as he passed away, now, the charge now is in Joshua's hands. Now he's the one that's going to take the baton and keep the ball rolling. Read.
And there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Most High knew face to face.
Right. There was no other prophet that arose like unto Moses. Right. The Most High knew Moses face to face. Right. Not physically face to face, but any communication or anything that Moses needed, that Most High wanted him to know, he will communicate to him directly. Not in visions, not in dreams, and not no deep parable, right? No dark sayings, anything like that. He told him straight up, listen, take them to the land of Canaan, where you ain't gonna make it. He was direct, right? That's how he spoke to Moses face to face. There was no other prophet like unto Moses that rose, right? Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 34 verse 11. And all the signs and the wonders which the Most High sent him to do in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh, and to all his servants, and to all his land.
Right. There was you can't think of one person that led the children of Israel through all these marvelous signs and wonders. You had the plagues in Egypt, the glory of the Most High on the top of Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, the parting of the Red Sea, the fiery, the rods of Aaron that turned into that budded with almonds, and then also the rods that turned into fiery serpents. There was a lot of signs and marvelous works that you cannot find any other history or any other event compared to this, right? On this level, or as much signs. Because we're going to see other things as you read through Joshua and Judges and, the story of Samson and all these other history events. But to compare it to what Moses made the children of Israel experience, there's no other, The earth opening up and swallowing up the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So many things. There's probably a couple things I'm forgetting.
Went up to the mountain.
When they what?
They went up to the mountain, got the commandments.
Right, the glory of the Most High presented himself on Mount Sinai, right? These were all the signs, and no other prophet can have the children of Israel experience, or led the children of Israel through those signs and wonders. Read.
Verse 12. And in all that mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moses shewed in the sight of all Israel.
Right. So all that great terror which Moses showed in the sight of all Israel, that fear that he had for the Most High was compared to no one else, was like no other. You know, and what that means? The obedience, you know, the zeal to continue to keep the law, statutes, and commandments after all the rebelliousness and all the stiff-neckedness of the Israelites that he kept fighting and fighting. Obviously, he slipped up because he's not going into the land of Canaan, but it's like, you know, he probably already messed up like twice, I believe. Twice. You know, he struck the rock, and then, as a matter of fact, I think that was the only time he messed up, when he struck the rock. I can't think of anything else right now.
Circumcised his son every day.
Huh?
They put circumcised his son every day. His wife and the morning.
Oh, okay, there you go. Right, but you know, the Most High, he told him, because of you didn't obey to my commandment when it came up to smiting the rock. Instead, you spoke to it. That's why you're not making it to the land of Canaan. Right. So with that, that's the end of the portion. So let's give the Most High a round of applause. All right, so all glory and honor goes to the Most High Yahweh, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for his mercy endure forever. Next week, we begin the portion all over again, which is going to be right back into the book of Genesis. Right? But in your spare time, you know, make sure to start reading Joshua, Judges, you know, Samuel, Kings, Chronicles, you know, so you can see what happens after this. Because, you know, we're not going to go into that when we start the portion all over again. But it's good to read about that history so you can see what Joshua ended up having dealing with, right? And you'll start learning how to harmonize the rest of the Bible after you continue to read those books. And, you know, you'll start understanding more the timeline and the history, how everything goes together, which is very important. So, say it again. Khan, you know, tune into Friday history class with Captain Yatazachaaq, because he goes into the history a lot, which he probably just going to start all over. I don't know if he got to the end of something. They in Samuel's? Okay. Okay, Khan. So yeah, so you could tune into Friday night class on Headquarters YouTube channel to see Captain Yatazachaaq dig into this history after what we read throughout the portion. All right. So you know, with that being said, does anybody have any questions or any statements they'd like to make? You know. Yeah. Good. Hold on, sis. You bringing the mic.
Why were some of the Indians referred to as native and you just Seminole? Why did they have all native?
What she said?
She's asking, what are you? She's asking, why did some of the Indians refer to as native and some as Seminoles?
And some as Seminoles? I believe it's because of the areas they dwelt in and lived in, you know, and the certain events that happened around that time, why they were named. As we understand, the Seminoles which means runaway Indians or something of that nature, you know. We would have to go into a little more and look into the history. It's all about what happened at that time, you know. Native Americans because of they was dwelling there. These are all names that were given to them by the the so-called white man. Let's put it like that. And they always do stuff like that. Like African American, because they believe they come from Africa and now they're dwelling in America. Let's call them African American. Or even nowadays, you don't really see a lot of those tribes, Native, Seminole, and whatever other name. A lot of them are have Spanish names now. There's still some that call themselves Native American Indians, but a percentage of all those Native Americans and some of the Indians that are really now, Mexican, South American, Central American. Those are other names that were given by their slave masters.
If we go into Genesis, the 49th chapter, it'll elaborate more. Like if you look into the curses, it'll talk about how Gad was overcome, but he will overcome at the last. So the Gadites were overcome. Then you look at Reuben, and it says that Reuben was the beginning of the strength of Abraham.
Right.
So that when you see what happened with the so-called Seminole Indians here in Florida, you see how they were giving Esau hell, and how we're, like you were speaking about earlier, and
Right.
you see that strength, and you see what Abraham was talking about, what Jacob was talking about in Genesis, the 49th chapter.
Con. Yeah. So it was just it was just these names and titles that was given to them because of where they dwelled at, or what was going on at that time. Does that answer your question, sis? Hallelujah.
Slavic.
Yes.
And even amongst each other, there's always need for further identification.
Con.
Because if you're such a large group,
Right.
like even in the scriptures, you would have, Kohathites,
Right. Exactly.
You were separated by your family name.
Right. Con.
You know what I mean?
That's very true because we was a big nation. They would say their forefather is Levi, but they would say I'm from the house of Kohath or the house of Gershon. Through the tribe of Levi, something like that. So you could only imagine what the indigenous tribes were doing as well. Any other questions or any statements? All right, Khan. So we're just going to go ahead and close it. All right, so Shalom to the nation of Israel, those that logged in live online. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the Recuerda Coast channels. Log in and subscribe to all the other channels that are under the Light of Zion channels. Lee County, Miami-Dade County, Augusta, Georgia. Don't forget about the headquarters in Broward County, Highland County, and any other channels that is affiliated with the Light of Zion. We got the Espanol, we got the Creole channels. So don't forget to tune in to their lives or their videos, like, subscribe, and share their channels, and spread this truth. All right, so Shalom to the nation of Israel, and Shabbat Shalom.